Hello everybody, welcome to our next Green Kitchen Conversations sessions. I'm Vicky from the Climate Kitchen Garden Project at Forth Environment Link, and my colleague Steffi will introduce herself.
Hi, Steffi from I'm Climate Food Officer as part of the Climate Kitchen Garden team.
So today is the next one of our, as I say, our Green Kitchen Conversations. And these are sessions, we're hoping to do them through Facebook Live, and we're wanting to create some conversations. We're having some issues with our technology, but we're working on that. But they're about looking at green kitchen swaps, so the impact our food has on the environment and what swaps we can perhaps make at home. So this week we're going to be talking and looking at kind of plant-based milks and having a go at making our own oat milk. But I'll hand over to Steffi for now to just kind of give you a bit of an introduction to the project.
Yeah, so just to give you a bit of context as to why we're doing this, we have a project called the Climate Kitchen Garden Project, and it's funded by the Climate Challenge Fund. And it's been working with our Falkirk community, basically just trying to empower people a bit more to feel more like they can make small changes and be more environmentally friendly, and just really giving that sense that all the small climate actions that we do can lead up to a bigger impact in our communities. So this is just a really informal learning along with us kind of thing. About some sustainable things to do with food, but we also work with growing as well. So yeah, keep an eye out for any of our events on our social media. I think that's
Yeah, and I think one of the important things that we kind of need to say is we're not experts at this, we're learning as we go along, and what we're wanting to do is create conversations. So share your thoughts, share your ideas, share your tips, share the changes that you've made, so we can create kind of conversations about this and we can all learn together. Yeah. Should we kind of have a little bit of a chat around kind of, I guess, plant-based milks, because there's been a massive increase, probably across the world in demand for plant-based milks, and it's much more common to go into any cafe and you can have a range of choices. And we kind of thought it was an interesting one to get us thinking about, because you sort of, is the assumption that you're changing to a vegan alternative is better, and we wanted to just delve into that a little bit and see what we could learn and kind of share with you. And then we can. Sorry, over to you, Steffi.
No, I was just going to say, I always relate mine to that cafe experience you were talking about. And I remember noticing, soy milk coming in and being an option. But now, honestly, I've had a pea latte with pea milk before.
Oh.
And it was actually quite tasty. It really tastes like a So, yeah, all of my kind of knowledge has come from seeing what coffees are available to me and seeing the list dramatically. Just like, yeah.
So what made you try the pea one? Just curiosity or an environmental interest?
Well, yeah, I think working with food, you are aware that dairy is a complicated issue, and definitely something that does impact the environment. So any which way that you can reduce your dairy is going to be a bit better for the planet. So for me, when I was looking at what I most drink, cow's milk, it's in my coffees really, because I like things like lattes and flat whites and that kind of style of coffee, and otherwise just cereal really. So that's how I came to sort of have a look at what I could change.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the kind of things we kind of do mention, in that we're looking at some research sort of done by the University of Oxford and also some information from the BBC. And when you talk about the figures for producing dairy milk, I'll just give you a quote from the study. A 2018 study found producing a glass of dairy milk results in almost 3 times more greenhouse gas emissions than a plant-based milk. And that's quite, to me, I found that quite startling in terms of the figures. But then when you delve a little deeper into some of the plant-based milks, they create questions and challenges for you. You know, I was kind of looking at things like almond milk. And, you know, again, I'm quoting figures used from the BBC, you know, to produce a single glass of almond milk requires 74 litres of water, which is more than you'd have in your shower. And that's to produce one glass of almond milk.
Gosh,
and that again, you think, if I stood there and looked at all the water that was in my shower, and if that was in a big bucket, and I looked at the one glass, you think that's a lot.
Yeah, it's so much. And I guess, you know, it just comes from not always thinking about the process behind the product that you buy. And that's a really good way to make a more sustainable kind of option when you're doing your shopping, is to kind of get more aware of those things. I think it's really sad that those figures are there for such a staple ingredient in our shopping. You know, I'm sure most of us all get milk with our weekly shop. So that's quite horrifying to hear the facts around the processing behind it.
I mean, then, you know, I then looked at others, and sort of rice milk is another one you sort of perhaps see an increasing amount, and that still requires 54 litres of water to produce a glass of rice milk.
And that's much, isn't it?
It's a huge amount, but it is all less than the dairy milk. So it is something we have, you know, you have to weigh up when you're looking at your options. But I guess this is one of the reasons, you know, why we came to oat milk seeming one of the more sustainable options, you know, and being in Scotland, we have an abundance of oats.
It's the most local kind of option for us, isn't it? I know what you mean about, you know, when I was, when I go shopping for plant-based milks or such, like, I had those kind of thoughts in my head about, you know, how can an almond that's, you know, not made in this country and has to travel that far, and I sort of had in my head that it does take a lot of water and that kind of thing. I almost thought maybe it would be competing with cow milk in the sustainable stakes, but you were saying actually it's still quite way down there.
It's still less, but you know, I guess compared to, you know, something like the almond milk, we are still thinking about the travel, the processing that's still involved, and you know, if you start to research it, there's a lot of pressure and sort of issues with bees and almond milk. Bees being used in the US for processing, for pollinating the almonds to make the milk, and they are sort of almost overworked in that part of the process. And again, it's not something
I wouldn't have thought.
I had perhaps thought about when I look at the almond milk in front of me in the shop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to remember that supermarkets are based on like supply and demand, aren't they? And they're a great, convenient shopping experience for us all, but their priority isn't ever really going to be sustainability or kind of the environment as of yet, you know. Hopefully in the future that will be one of their priorities, but so it's sort of, just because it is available, should we be buying it at all, or can we just find an easy swap like our own homemade oat milk?
So why don't we kind of touch on the fact why we've gone for the oat milk? I think we kind of mentioned already the fact being in Scotland, we have oats. There is a plentiful supply of oats. I guess making our own, we're reducing down the sort of processing that goes on, packaging that's used for that.
Absolutely, yeah. That's another issue with buying milk in general, is all the packaging, whether it's a Tetra Pak or plastic carton. It all adds up because it's so part of our daily use. That was a really big incentive, and actually, again, we've got all got busy lives. This recipe stood out to me because it's so quick. It's really simple and quick to do. And will save you a bit of money as well, because it's really very cost effective. The amount of oats in the one I'm using anyway is half a mug of oats for a good liter and a half of milk, I think, at the end. So you imagine the cost of that would be considerably cheaper as well.
It is, and you think, if you were to buy some oat milk in a supermarket, what would that cost?
I think they're about, they can, if they're flavored, they can sometimes be up to £2 to £3. But probably the lowest end of the scale, £1 a litre. No, you're not breaking the bank, I suppose. But it's all those added benefits of, like you say, saving packaging, and again, just getting, really knowing what goes into your food and drink.
No, that's part of the reason for having these sessions, is getting us all thinking.
Yeah,
definitely. And learning and sharing with each other. So should we get on and have a go at making some oat milk?
Yes. So we had two slightly different recipes. And have you pre-made yours there, Vicky?
I have pre-made mine, so I'm gonna turn mine into chocolate milk. Because I thought this would go down very well with a 6-year-old, so we'll go with that.
Well, I'll take you through mine first as the early stages, and I'm going to move my camera so you can see it a bit clearly. Switch it around. So hopefully you can see this okay. So, my recipe calls for half a cup of rolled oats. So I actually just have jumbo oats, but that seems to work fine. And although cups are quite an American measure, I'm literally just using a mug. So you don't have to be too precise. So instead of half a cup, I'm going to do literally half a mug and see how that goes. Excuse my one-handed cooking. There we go. And so to my 1/2 cup of rolled oats, I'm going to add 3 cups of water, so 3 mugs of water. And I should have said before, just be careful with you want quite a big container when you're going to blend this, just because it can be a bit messy. I speak from previous experience. Okay. So I've got my 3 mugs of water in there. So this one has, it's slightly sweetened. So you can use maple syrup, or I'm going to use honey, just so it's even more local as possible. Got a nice local honey here, and I'm just going to put 2 teaspoons in. 2 very generous teaspoons. I love honey. And then you can also add a bit of vanilla essence to this one. I'm going to try, and I don't have a lot left, so I'm just going to scrape a bit out. And again, because I'm one-handed, I'm just going to put a touch in there. But you can again heat it if you have 2 hands free. And then the last thing to put in is a tiny, it says 1/8 of a teaspoon here. So you can kind of estimate yourself, just of sea salt or table salt will be fine too. And give it a stir. And so the simplest of recipes, all you have to do then is blend this up for 30 seconds. So I'm going to use a stick blender, and I'm just going to give it a few, maybe not for 30 seconds, but I'm just going to give it pulses like that. Okay, so one-handed. Already looks quite creamy and milky like. Just kind of, that's probably enough for this demo. Voila. And then here, I just have a normal sieve, so relatively fine. I guess you could even filter it more by putting a bit of mesh over it or something like that. And I'm just going to pour it over the sieve. And you see, you kind of get left with a nice oaty pulp at the end of it. I mean, it is so simple that I do feel quite ashamed for buying it myself. I probably should have done this a long time ago. But yeah, so you've got some nice kind of porridgey leftover, and that's my milk there. I don't know how that differs to how yours is looking. Can you see that, the sunshine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit frothy at the top. And I was actually going to make a little iced coffee with mine.
Nice.
So I'm just gonna try and pour this in here. And I've got a little shot of coffee that is already a bit cool here, but you could just use a little spoon of instant coffee and water or something like that. Put it on top.
Delicious.
A perfect summer beverage. There we go. So it's really nice and quick. I'm just gonna do a quick splash of it there. And then I'm gonna put you back onto me. But I would love to see your chocolate milk.
Well, we'll get I have got some chocolate powder in the bottom of this with a wee bit of, I added a bit of the oat milk, and I'm just going to give it a whisk together. So I used a slightly different recipe, but again, very simple. So I soaked 100 grams of oats last night, just in water, sitting on the kitchen surface. And then this morning, strained them, blended them, added some water and a wee bit of salt, and that was that. And it's kind of, it took a while I used again a sieve, but then I put a bit of muslin in it as well. But again, very simple.
I guess that would give you a creamier kind of texture, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, this recipe did give me the tip not to push the pulp when you're letting it drain, just to let it do it naturally. I guess just again to get a bit of a finer oat milk.
Yeah, I think it's probably something that you play around with to kind of get the consistency you like, and if you like it nice and creamy, go with that.
Looks so good. I love chocolate.
See, will this last till school pick up? This could be the challenge.
Well, if you've got a bag of oats, just think how much oat milk you can make.
But this is it, I do have more oats, so Right, that is looking
wow,
lovely. We're going to pour that.
How exciting. What a nice job we have.
Cheers.
Cheers, let's see.
Delicious.
I mean, that to me doesn't taste too dissimilar to an iced latte that you would have, or iced coffee. It's really nice actually with the. I think chocolate and oat would be a lovely flavour combination, wouldn't it?
It's delicious. I think what I would do with it is put it in the fridge to cool it a bit. But I think that's lovely.
Would you need to add any sweeteners to yours? Because I know mine has a bit of honey in it.
I think if I used cocoa, I'd probably add a bit of sweetener to it. But because I used a sort of hot chocolate powder, that's already got some sweetness in it. So no, I wouldn't add anything to that.
I would say that I added 2 teaspoons of honey, but it's actually not that sweet either. It's not super sweet. So it's quite nice. Must be just a nice balance or something for the salt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, no, that's delicious. So in terms of what we had left.
Yeah. So I've got some really nice kind of, I mean, admittedly, it's not a huge amount. But I think I might, I could pop mine in a smoothie. Or do you think it would be enough for a flapjack or something like that? Maybe with some banana?
Yeah, you could do something like that, or put it in with some muffins, add a bit of texture. And one of the things that I was thinking was also actually making a body scrub with it. So adding it to maybe with some coffee grounds, using that, I think that would be lovely.
Oh, that's a nice idea, yeah. They sometimes say to put oats in children's baths as well, don't they?
Yes, yeah.
Some kind of healing property.
So I think, I think there's so much you could do with it. Definitely no need for that to go to waste.
Yeah, and then how satisfying that you're really not wasting anything in the making of it, which is really great. Or even I bet birds would love it.
Definitely.
For the foxes, if you live near me.
They would. So one of the other things kind of we wanted to mention was the fact that yes, you can make your own, but you can also get it. There is an increasing number of kind of local Scottish oat milk producers, and we will share some links with you kind of in the chat when we put this up so you can access it. So Steffi, you mentioned a couple.
So one of the ones I like are Untitled Oats. And they started off in Edinburgh, but I've noticed that you can get their oat milk in Way Ahead, which is based in Dum Lane, a nice refill store. And they serve quite big bottles in glass bottles, which is really handy and very tasty.
Do they still? I know they started when they delivered by doing it by cargo bike. Are they still doing that?
They are, yeah. I think it's very much part of their ethos. To use cargo bike. So I imagine that goes on the train or something like that. I'm not sure they're quite dedicated to
quite a long way to get there on a cargo bike. And was it Bros Oats? Another one you mentioned.
Yes, I noticed they are available in Tatty Bogles on Falkirk High Street. So that's another great one. I haven't tried their milk, but I can imagine it's just as tasty. And it usually with the glass milk providers, you can return the glass bottles to get used again. So, again, you're not wasting anything, any packaging. It's all getting reused by the producer.
Yeah, which is good. And another one that was mentioned was Oto Milk, who you can get delivered again in glass bottles. So there are options out there to get local oat milk in glass bottles. So it's worth, as I said, we'll share the link so you can access those and have a look at what they're doing. Anything else you wanted to add in, Steffi?
No, just please do share your comments and let us know if there's anything you've tried or if this has been useful to just see someone walk through the process. I mean, it's a very simple recipe. But it's certainly something I've never gotten around to trying myself before. So yeah, now I've done it, I definitely will be also making my own oat milk more often. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
no, no.
worth it, isn't it?
I would agree. I would definitely be making some more and encouraging other people to have a go at making it. Well, I think it just remains for us to say thank you for joining us today. Please join in, as Steffi said, join in the chat, share your inspiration, your ideas, ask questions, and we can continue to kind of explore and learn together. And we will be back in a couple of weeks looking at oils.
Yeah. So yeah, please do give us suggestions if there's anything you would like to try out. Yeah, but the next one will be on oil, so another key ingredient to our kitchen. So it'll be interesting to see about that. Okay, thank you everyone. Bye. Sorry, Vicky, I'll edit out the end bit of me fumbling on my phone. We're done.